It's Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. You know, the more I watch this economy erode, the more I watch these politicians send America right into the greatest depression of all time, the more concerned and worried I'm becoming about the future of this economy and this country. I just watched the governor of California come out a few hours ago and tell all of us here in California that this state is not going to be reopening for another 3 to 5 weeks. And that after that 3 to 5 weeks, we will transition into other phases, and that there will be 4 phases to the reopening. So we can expect California to basically be shut down at least into midsummer, maybe the whole summer. Who knows how long these phases are going to take. But you know, my heart goes out to so many people, especially right here in the state of California, especially in retail, leisure, hospitality. You know, when I shot that video over the weekend in Fashion Island, you know, there were people that said, "Oh, well, why are you shooting video of the empty stores? That doesn't make any sense." It is to show people here in the U.S. and around the world what is happening. And what is happening is, and there were people who said, well, Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom's, and well, that's all for wealthy people. And look, first off, I don't hate wealthy people. But what you don't realize is at those Nordstrom's, at the Neiman Marcus, at the Bloomingdale's, those stores all employ people who have families, who have bills, who have car payments, who have rent payments, who have to eat. And so, you know, again, I don't have an issue with wealthy people. What I have an issue with is the economy is frozen and people working all throughout this incredible country, whether it's in leisure, hospitality, or retail, or any other sector of this economy, people are not being allowed to work. And this is very, very dangerous. Article here in The Hedge today: 1 in 3 Americans have suffered a layoff, a job loss, cut in hours, or cut in their income. And when you look at the malls, like the one I was at this weekend, it's a ghost town. Nobody is working. How long can this go on? It's just every day. When you look at the overhead, when you look at the amount of employment that is just frozen, how long can we go on as a country with everything just being frozen? So here in California, we will be opening with adaptation and modification. And again, 4 phases. And right now we're in the first phase that will last 3 to 5 weeks. I just looked a little while ago. 10-year bond yields are at 0.61. Oil around $13 a barrel. Dow is down 32 points today. We will get the jobless numbers this Thursday. Expect the Fed to come out this week and just continue to do anything that the stock market and Wall Street needs it to do. It will continue to give it as much money, as much medicine as it needs to keep everything propped up. Just think about the nightmare we're in right now, this twilight zone where the stock market is getting back close to it's not that far away from getting back to all-time highs, and I believe it will happen. Wow, we will see this Thursday 30 million people in America jobless. 10-year bond yields at under a percent. Oil at $13. It was around $10 last night. And yet everything should be okay because the Dow Jones is going up. This is the movie we are living in right now. But here's some more reality. Small business bailout demand so high, SBA portal crashes 4 minutes after second round launch. This is also on The Hedge. It took only 4 minutes before the unprecedented demand swamped the Small Business Administration's second paycheck protection program. This economy, ladies and gentlemen, is much more frail than any of us thought. When we have small business in this type of desperation for money, this tells us that the economy couldn't have been doing that well to begin with. And these people who believe that the magic key is going to turn everything back on and we're going back to normal, no, we will be going back to abnormal, because this was a very abnormal economy to begin with. Nothing got fixed from 2008 because nobody wanted to feel the pain. So we kicked the can down the road. So here we are with massive trillions of dollars of debt. We have a stock market now that is so fake, it's faker than a $3 bill. Anybody can see that today. I mean, anybody that tells you the stock market is not manipulated, it's not fake, it's not controlled, they are absolutely in a coma. We are living at a time now, I mean, just think, and people told you that this could, like things like this, oh, that could never happen, this could never happen, that could never happen. We are now living in a time, in a period where the US economy is frozen, where people are being paid right now, temporarily, not to go to work. We're living in a global economy that is frozen. How many people thought a year ago that that was going to happen? So be on alert for the next event, because who knows what we're going to be waking up to. Remember, negative $40 barrel oil, frozen global economy, frozen US economy. Unbelievable where this is all going. The hedge, we are moving into the end game. 27 tankers anchored off California. Hundreds of tankers are anchored off Singapore. So what kind of effect do you think this is going to have on the oil industry? What kind of effect does this have on fracking and shale? Think about it. The best indicator of how the shale industry is reacting is the sudden collapse in the number of oil rigs in operation. Before last Friday, oil companies ran about 650 rigs in the United States. Now we have 378 rigs operating here in the US. That's 40%. So 40% over the past week stopped working. Think about that number. Over 40% of the oil rigs in America last week stopped working. Oil and gas industry shed 57,000 jobs in March. 5 to 7 years of job growth were wiped out in just 1 month. So we're going to see the unemployment numbers continue to increase. I believe that we're probably going to see in excess of 3 million jobless claims this coming Thursday. And this oil industry, the amount of jobs, towns that are reliant on the oil industry, drillers, people work on the pipeline, refineries, transportation, you name it. There is so much connected to the oil industry. And here we are today with $13 a barrel oil, and it could go much lower. But, are we going to see $40 or $50 barrel oil anytime soon? Ask yourself, if people aren't getting on airplanes, if they're not getting in their cars to go shopping or out to dinner, if they're not jumping on planes to go to resorts, to take vacations, if they're not getting in cars to drive here to Palm Springs to go golfing or take a weekend vacation or go to Vegas, who's buying the oil? There are tankers all over the globe just sitting with tons of oil. So we're going to see havoc in the oil industry and more bankruptcies coming. Here's one right here. Diamond Offshore files for bankruptcy. Diamond Offshore was once the most admired offshore drilling company in the U.S. with a rock-solid cash flow. A little over a decade later, the cash flows are gone. They have filed for bankruptcy with debts of more than $2.6 billion. There have been more than 200 oil patch bankruptcies since 2015, and many more are coming. We didn't have negative $40 a barrel oil back in 2015. We didn't have $13 a barrel oil back in 2015. Now, there was an article that somebody sent to me last night, and it was on CNN Business. And this is very interesting, but it's an old article. It goes back to 2015. It's titled, Chinese Company to Buy Texas Oil Fields in $1.3 billion Deal. What I have to ask myself is, we've seen so many pork farms, so many agricultural farms sold to China. How many oil patches, how many oil companies are going to be sold to Chinese companies, which in reality is the Chinese Communist government? But with all this devastation taking place, we see China just unloading monopoly US dollars, all this fake monopoly money, and they're buying assets all over the world with US dollars. While the US dollar has some buying power left, they are buying mineral mines and gold mines and silver mines and diamond mines and pork farms and beef ranches, and they're buying real assets. So I haven't heard anybody talking about this, but I'd be very curious if China now is going to be back into buying more oil fields. Another article today, wave of repos imminent as subprime auto buyers miss payments. Credit Acceptance Corp, the leader to car buyers with subprime credit scores, warned it's seeing a sharp drop-off in payments. Now, we knew last year over 7 million people were severely delinquent on their auto payments. That's 90 days plus. I can't even imagine where that number is today. As unemployment soars, borrowers are putting off payments. I mean, what a surprise, right? People now are more worried about trying to save their house, keeping the water and the lights on, and eating. LI Financial Inc. said on Monday that about 25% of its auto loan customers have taken advantage of its payment deferred program. Also, loan apps for autos is falling off of a cliff. I was reading another article last night, and there was an advertisement in it from Ford, and I clicked on it. Ford is offering 4 months of no payments with 84 months 0% interest. So 4 months, 0 payments, 84 months, 0% interest rates. And that sounds really good, but people aren't even going to be able to pay the principal now without a job. Another article here on the hedge, freight trucking demand plunges to all-time low. Rates crash and industry grapples with lockdown. That's on the hedge. This is another bellwether to what is happening to the US economy. And we all must remember there is no magic key, no magic switch that's going to take us back in time to some booming economy, to some normal economy. Most of you already know things were not normal, things were not healthy since at least 2008, since the last financial crisis. Nothing got fixed. We just pushed everything down the road here and covered it all up with debt. And now we've had this infection prick the bubble and expose how frail and how weak this economy really was, how weak and frail the consumer was, small business, big business. Everyone needs money. Everyone needs a bailout. One bad month and nobody was ready for it. Nobody can recover without handouts now. And remember, we are all going to pay the piper for all the money printing, all the quantitative easing, the 0% interest rates, all the repo injections, all the market manipulation, all the fake optimism that we hear on TV, all the gambling in this propped up fake illusion we call the stock market. We are going to pay the piper. We are not going to get away without feeling the pain from all of this. CNBC, economic damage is hitting The lowest level of wage earners, the hardest. Well, of course it is. It's hitting the people that work in retail and hospitality, leisure. All these people are dependent on people being able to shop, people being able to wine and dine. I live in an area where we have multiple casinos, multiple resorts, hotels, multiple golf courses. This is an area here that is extremely dependent on people coming here for the weekend, people coming here from other countries, such as Canada, where people come and spend months at a time, have second homes here. So our real estate market even depends on a lot of this. But now that people aren't able to drive in cars, they're not getting on airplanes, as people are going to be scared as these restrictions get lifted at some point. People aren't coming here. They're not going to be running to casinos to sit with 1,000 people to play on a slot machine. They're not going to jump on a plane here to come stay at a resort with 1,000 people, eat in a restaurant with hundreds of people, go on a golf course with hundreds of people. They're just not going to do it because they are fearful of what is going on. Now, whether you believe this stuff or not, one thing is a fact. Many people do, and they're not going to drive, they're not going to fly, they're going to stay hunkered down. This means they're not going to spend money. That means they're not going to come here and buy real estate. That means they're not going to come here and gamble, play golf, spend a lot of money at Mastro's or Morton's or Eddie V's or wherever they're eating. They're not going to do it. And so all these people who are dependent on this, from the owner of the resorts to the owner of the restaurants to the owners of the golf courses, all the way down to the person who washes dishes, to who cleans the pool, to who folds the towels, everybody is going to feel the pain here. This was on the AP about 2 days ago. Las Vegas, muted and vacant. Las Vegas struggles to survive. Just like my town, struggling now. We have a lot of small business owners, just like Vegas. The big casinos, of course, they're needing bailout money. The small business owners won't get it because it won't trickle down to them. Some of them will, of course, but many of them will be waiting for money that is never going to come. And many of them don't even qualify for these loans because they're not going to be able to not fire people. They're not going to not be able to, they're going to be forced to downsize. At that point, they're forced to pay the money back. They're not going to be able to pay the money back. Business is going to be so bad that they won't be able to pay these loans back. They won't be able to continue business without letting go of a lot of people. As we enter phases here, especially in California, if we have to remain a certain distance, that means the restaurant owner has to pull tables out of the restaurant. That means he has to let some waiters or waitresses go. It means he has to let a bartender go. That means he can't make as much money. That means he can't afford the rent or the lease of that building. What happens? If he's forced to let people go, well, if he took a loan or a grant, now he is forced to pay it back. How's he going to pay it back? I mean, these small businesses and restaurants were already in such bad shape after a week or two. They were already needing money. Now we're, what, 5, 6 weeks, 7 weeks into this thing, and the economy continues to remain frozen. Nobody can make money. Listen, this thing is a mess. CNBC. The U.S. will need to spend trillions more as economy takes until 2022 to fully recover. CNBC survey, right there. 1/3 of respondents in the CNBC Fed survey believe the economy won't be fully restored until the second quarter of 2022. More money will be needed to combat the slowdown. Well, yeah, where do you think that's going to come from? That's going to come from the Fed and the U.S. government and you. GDP will decline by 24% this quarter. The unemployment rate will rise as high as 19% and remain elevated into 2021. I think that these numbers are very conservative. I think we could easily see a bigger decline in GDP, way beyond 24%. Unemployment is going to surge past 19%, and it is going to remain elevated well past 2021, because we are going to suffer such irreversible consequences from what is transpiring right now, weeks upon weeks upon weeks of the economy being shut down. And right now, it looks like there is going to be weeks upon weeks upon weeks of most of the U.S. economy being shut down. Some states will be more lenient, but states like mine will not. And we can't just have 20% of the U.S. economy open and survive as a nation. So I'm going to wrap it up right here today. One last article on the hedge. Physical gold premiums soar. I can't stress enough before I go the importance of owning gold and silver, the importance of having cash put away. You know, there are people out there that believe that the system is sound, that the banks are sound, that the government is sound, that the whole system is healthy. And that's fine. If you're one of those people, that's fine. You don't need to be buying gold and silver. Keep putting money in your 401k, and that's fine. For the people out there that don't believe that the banks are sound, that don't believe the U.S. consumer is healthy, that don't believe this economy is healthy, for the people out there that don't believe this economy is going to bounce back into some normal economy that we didn't even have before, for you people, you're the ones buying the gold, buying the silver, putting the cash reserves away. And you're going to be the people that survive this. You know, it doesn't matter how many years you went to school, how many degrees you have on a wall. You know, it's going to be the guy with a $125,000 a year job sitting in a cubicle at some bank who is not going to be able to evolve with this new economy, who's not going to evolve with this new America, because they're not prepared. You know, I know people who have degrees from very good schools, Stanford, Berkeley, UCLA, wherever. And I know people that never graduated 8th grade. And I've got to be honest, the people with the 8th grade education are more awake and much smarter than these people who went to an Ivy League school or have a degree sitting on, hanging on their wall. Some of these people that never graduated 8th grade are so much brighter, so much more awake, so much more prepared, so much more open-minded than the person with a degree hanging on the wall. And that's the truth. So don't ever let anybody put you down because they went to a bigger or better school than you did, or you didn't go to a school. They have a degree, you don't have a degree. Maybe they make more money than you. They have a bigger office than you. They're driving a nicer car than you. I would not be intimidated by that if I were you. These are the people, many of them, not all, but many of these people are the most unprepared people I know. And many of you probably know people like this. And I'm not saying they're bad people. Very nice. Friends of mine. But unfortunately, they are comatose. And people like me, people like you, we can't even have conversations with these people because they're so conditioned, because they believe everything they watch on the television. Their priorities are completely out of sync with ours. And so again, whether you have a high school education, an 8th grade education, or a college education, nothing matters more than if you're open-minded, if you're awake and aware of what's happening right now. Right now, it is so important that you are awake of what's happening to this country, what's happening to this economy. Again, who cares if somebody drives a nicer car than you? Who cares about somebody's degree? Who cares how big somebody's house is? Are these people prepared to deal with bad times? Are they prepared to prosper and survive this economic downturn? Most will not. The cubicle will be gone. The BMW will be gone. The degree on the wall will mean nothing. What will mean something is, are you an asset? Do you have a skill set? Are you prepared mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially to survive the worst economic downturn the world has ever seen.